guys, it's Day We here. Welcome back to The Day We Cook. And today we'll be cooking up some paella. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. It's a very fun word to say, and it is one of the most famous dishes in Spanish cuisine. It is a simmered rice dish that originally came from the city of Valencia, Spain. And in case you're wondering, ¿Dónde está Valencia? Where is Valencia? It is about a 4 hours drive south of Barcelona along the Mediterranean coast. And it is Spain's third largest city after Madrid, la capital, and Barcelona. Did you guys know that the port of Valencia is the 5th busiest container port in all of Europe? And that it is the busiest container port on the Mediterranean Sea. Valencia has been one of the most important rice producing areas in Spain since it was introduced by the Moors during the 10th century. In fact, the Spanish word for rice, which is arroz, came from the Arabic language, and the locals along the eastern Iberian Peninsula would make casseroles of rice and fish and spices, and they would serve it to family gatherings and religious holidays, and thus establishing the custom of eating rice. And by the 15th century, rice had become a major staple in Spanish cuisine. Paella was actually a farmer's or a farm laborer's lunchtime meal that was cooked over a wood fire in a pan. It would be rice and whatever was available on hand in the countryside or in the rice field. So it was rice and tomatoes and onions and, believe it or not, snails. They would also add in some rabbit or duck, and chicken was only used during special occasions along with a touch of saffron and other spices. And traditionally, paella was eaten straight from the pan. Everyone around the pan would have their own individual wooden spoons. That was the beginning of a paella valenciana, Valencian paella. And despite the fact that Valencia is a coastal city and you would think they would add fish and other seafoods, a traditional Valencian paella contains no fish, no seafood whatsoever. It's not like you go to Valencia, Spain, and you won't find a seafood paella. You will, it's just it won't be considered a traditional Valencian paella. Contrary to what many people believe and think, the word paella does not actually mean the famous Spanish rice dish. It actually refers to the wide, shallow pan in which it is prepared. The word paella is related to the word paella, which is used in many Latin American countries. And paella refers to a variety of cookware resembling clay and metal pans that are used for cooking and serving food. There's a whole bunch of really wonderful theories in regards to how the word paella originated. One of the most romantic theories suggests that the dish was first prepared by a lover for his fiancée, and that the word paella is a corruption of para ella, which means for her in Spanish. And you know, I think it's a myth, but I kind of like it because I think there's a small grain of truth to that story, because traditionally a lot of the cooking is left to the women in Spain, but the making of paella is actually left to the men in Spain. It's kind of like here in the United States, a lot of men prefer to man the grills. They like to do the barbecuing. Another theory is that the word paella actually came from the Arabic word bakia, which means leftovers. And that is based on the custom where the Moorish king's servants would take home the rice and the chicken and the vegetables and whatever was left over at the end of their royalties' meal and make a dish out of that. Okay, welcome back to my kitchen. We're about to begin on the paella, but as usual, I like to display all of the different ingredients that's involved in the dish so that I know exactly what's where. Even though there are so many different types of paella, so many different varieties, it is not so much about the ingredients or the toppings like the seafood or the meats as it is about the rice. The star of the dish is the rice, and it's really important that you use the correct type of rice for paella because otherwise it just won't taste or look right. The rice that they use traditionally in Spain is a short grain rice known as Bomba, and it comes from the Calispera region of Spain. It's a little hard to find here in the United States. Even here in Los Angeles, I went shopping for it, couldn't find it, so it's probably best to order it online. So a really good substitute is arborio rice, which is the type of rice that you would find in Italian risotto. It originates from Arborio, Italy, in the Piedmont region of Italy, and so short grain rice is really important because you want to be able to use rice that is to be able to absorb the liquid. Another really important aspect of a good paella is the sofrito. What is a sofrito? An aromatic base that is the foundation of the paella's flavors, right? So if you don't really have a very good base, then your paella is not going to have a whole lot of flavor. And in Spanish cuisine, a sofrito is usually comprised of bell peppers, tomatoes, garlic, onions, olive oil, and a variety of different spices. And because this is a paella, one of the most famous spices is saffron. I'm sure you have heard of saffron, and if you have heard of it, you know saffron is the most expensive spice on the market. So what is saffron? Saffron comes from the flower known as Saffron crocus, and its threads have been collected and dried, and mainly it's used for seasoning and coloring of food. It's believed to have originated in Iran, but some people believe it came from Greece. Today it grows all over Spain in a belt all the way east to Kashmir, but 90% of the world's supply of saffron comes from Iran. It's spread to a whole lot of other countries. It's been traded and used for thousands of years. And if you know anything about saffron, the harvesting is super labor intensive. And because it's so laborious in collecting the flowers, it takes more than 150,000 flowers to produce 1 kilo. Saffron can cost anywhere from $500 to well over $5,000 per pound. That's right, per pound. So I did find some saffron at the grocery store today. I was at the Mexican market, and so here's what I have. It's saffron flour. Okay, so these are the dried threads of saffron right over here. What does it smell like? It smells kind of like honey, but like a metallic honey. It's kind of weird, and the taste, to a lot of people it varies. Some people say it's like super earthy, grassy, bitter. Other people say it's kind of semi-sweet, but just a pinch of saffron goes a long way because you don't want too much and have it overpower your food, your paella in this case, but you just want a little bit to add that flavor, that oomph, and to give your rice that beautiful golden hue. I also have included turmeric. We talked about turmeric in my beef sauté dish. It's a very popular spice that's used in a lot of Asian, Persian, South Asian cuisines, but turmeric is an earthy spice that's pungent, really good flavors, especially for curries. Then right next to this, I have paprika. Paprika is a dried spice from a variety of dried peppers, and the flavor profile ranges from sweet to intensely hot, sometimes smoky. It's very popular in Hungarian cuisine. I also have a little bit of chicken bouillon, which is a granulated chicken powder as opposed to salt. And then of course I have my garlic, and I have some chopped white onions along with some red bell peppers, my whole can of peeled tomatoes in the tomato juice, chicken broth, low sodium. However, if you're doing seafood, you can also use like a clam broth or a shrimp broth. And then my topping is going to be peeled and deveined shrimp from the grocery store today. If you don't have saffron, or it's just really difficult to find at your grocery store, a really good substitute is safflower, which belongs to the daisy family, or you could use turmeric, which is known as Indian saffron. First thing I'm going to do is heat up my pan with some olive oil. Get this nice and ready for the shrimp. I'm going to toss the shrimp with a little bit of the chicken bouillon. And you could use salt if you want. I just prefer chicken bouillon. I think it has a little bit more flavor. I'm going to add some paprika to the mix as well. And then we're just going to give this a nice little toss. And, you know, cooking shrimp is super easy. Like, you have to really watch your timing on shrimp, because if you overcook it, then it's going to be hard and chewy, and nobody likes hard and chewy shrimp. So shrimp usually only takes about 2 to 3 minutes. And a really good indicator of cooking shrimp is making sure that it turns into this nice opaque white pinkish color with some pops of red. And that's how you know it's done. The gray of the shrimp is turning pink. Once everything's all pink, we'll put it off to the side. The pink has popped out, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna toss this to the side, and then we won't see the shrimp again until towards the end of the paella, where we put that on top of the rice dish. I added a little bit more olive oil into the pan, and what I'm gonna do next is add the onions and the bell peppers and get that all nice and caramelized. Onions are glistening, it's softening, it smells really good. I could smell the onions, the bell peppers, and the onions have softened. They're nice and caramelized. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the garlic. We're gonna cook the garlic for about a minute and get that nice and aromatic. Right, up next is a can of tomatoes. So that's in there. I'm gonna just kind of stir that in. And then what's next are all of the different spices. So I'm gonna add in my turmeric and paprika and a generous large pinch of saffron as well. And then I'm going to add a little bit more chicken bouillon for flavoring. Mix that all in there. Okay, adding the chicken broth right now. And we're just going to let that cook and simmer. We'll add the arborio rice. Again, if you can find Bomba rice or any type of short, medium grain rice from the Calispera region of Spain, that would be the most ideal. But again, you want to use a short or medium grain rice because the grains absorb the liquid. Long grain rice does not, and so is not ideal for paella. So I put in the rice. I'm kind of just going to stir this around, making sure that it kind of covers the entire pan here. Because traditionally, what's really best about paella is getting that crispy texture, you know, that crispy rice at the very bottom of the pan. And it's just, you know, that makes for like one of the best paellas. Very authentic, very traditional. And you have a lot of the people that is around the pan just scooping up, trying to scrape the crispy bits and pieces of the rice that's stuck in the bottom of the pan. It's kind of fun. So here's what the paella is starting to look like right now. The rice is in there along with the tomatoes, garlic, onions, bell peppers, the sofrito, which involves the saffron, the paprika, turmeric, and chicken bouillon. And once the rice is evenly distributed, you want to just let it simmer on a medium high to high heat for about 20 minutes. Once you have the rice evenly distributed, you do not stir the rice anymore. You just want to let it sit there. So here's that crust that has begun to form at the bottom of the pan, and that's what you want to look for without burning the rice altogether. It's called sakarat, and it's just a lot of flavor, and it gives the dish a little bit of texture. The rice is all cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and pour some frozen peas, add the shrimp. I'm gonna garnish it with parsley, add some lemon wedges, and the dish is done. So I just sliced some lemon wedges and have that around my pan here. I'm just gonna garnish it with a little bit of parsley for a little bit of added freshness and some more color, and that is it. Here it is, the finished product. It smells so good. It's got that nice crispy bottom. And just as they do in Spain and restaurants that serve paella, you want to eat it right out of the pan. You taste the sofrito, right? The base, the peppers, the tomatoes, the garlic, the onions, and all of the different spices that we added. And then you have the wonderfully, perfectly cooked shrimp, which is nice and light pink and opaque. It just has a nice bite to it, along with the sweetness of the green peas, which adds nice color to the dish, and a little bit of garnish from the lemon as well as the parsley. And that's it. You've got your dish. You can make it any variation of paella that you like. You can skip the shrimp, you can add clams or mussels or other types of seafood. You can do chicken, you can do a sausage chorizo, whatever you want. But as long as you have the right type of rice and the foundation that gives the flavors to the rice, then you have yourself a really wonderful paella. Buen provecho!